So when Peter, when we ask for a vote, a poll will come up on your screen. You simply vote yes or no. We'll then present the results and we'll move on to the next part of it. Okay. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 10:05 on August 21st, 2021. And I want to welcome everybody to our annual general meeting. First, I just want to quickly review the agenda. So we have to review from a legal perspective our minutes from our annual general meeting last year. I'll give a quick president's report. Then we'll present our finances. We have a slate of directors that have been nominated to be elected. We'll open it up for new business, announce the next general meeting, and then we will be adjourning. And following the annual general meeting, we have a couple of presentations on. We have Diana Paquette, who's the chair of Safe Quiet Lakes organization. And because there have been a lot of people talking about boating safety, speed of boats, noise of boats, music on the lake, etc., fireworks. Safe Quiet Lake looks at everything in that regard. And so Dan is going to take us through a presentation on that. Following that, we have Paul Smith, who is the superintendent for the Kawartha Highlands Signature Site Park, and he's going to give us a quick operational update just to let us know what's going on with the park, as they are one of our largest neighbors. And then to wrap up the meeting, Ted Spence is going to take us through a water levels update and let us know what we can expect over the next few weeks. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
It's Ted Spence, and I'm happy to move the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ted. Can I have a seconder?
I'm Peter Raymond, and I will second that motion.
Thank you, Peter. And any questions, discussions, any additions to the agenda? Okay, then we'll go to a vote, all for, and any opposed. So if we could activate the poll. Okay, do we have the results from that? Looks like yes, so we'll move on. Okay, now the minutes for the previous annual general meeting, I'll present those. So the annual general meeting for the CCRAI was chaired by Gary Jaros and started at 10:06 a.m. on August 15, 2020. The board of directors of CCRAI was introduced and a quorum was established with 64 people in attendance via Zoom. The minutes from last year's AGM were reviewed by Gary Jaros and on a motion by Les Clark and seconded by Ivan Batty. They were approved as presented. A president's report was provided, and then the financial statements were presented by Gary Jaros and on a motion by Carol Giles and seconded by Peter Raymond. The financial statements were approved. Then a nomination, a slate of 11 directors who were nominated to the board for election were presented, and on a motion by Greg Anderson and seconded by Peter Currier, the nominations were accepted as presented. Number of items came up as new business, noise bylaws and how they pertain to loud boat noise, lawnmowers, chainsaws. Suggestion was made to send an email to all members who've lapsed memberships and request a renewal, and what was the current state of upgrading the internet in our area. And on a motion by Bob Taylor Vasey, seconded by Ted Spence, the meeting was adjourned at 10:35. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes of the annual general meeting of the Cavendish Community Ratepayers Association from August 15, 2020?
Gary, this is Peter Raymond. I don't see Carol on the line, so I will make that motion.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you, Peter. Can I have a seconder?
This is Les Clark, and I will second that motion.
Thank you, Les. And could we then have a vote on activating that poll for a vote on the minutes? Okay, that's great. We're 21 of 21, so we'll end that. That motion's approved. And now we'll go into a president's report. So over the last year, we held actually more board meetings than we have in previous years because doing them by Zoom, it was very convenient to do it during the wintertime. As an organization, you know, we have a number of key priorities. Lake and water quality, which is, you know, first and foremost to everybody and what we've been spending the most amount of time on, but also safety and security of our homes, logging and mining issues, taxation and working with the municipality, and then the Kawartha Island Signature Site Park, you know, access operational happenings there. So those are kind of the key areas that we always focus on. So over the last year, we continued to monitor the waste management program there. And we have been continuing to talk to Peterborough Waste Management because we are looking for a solution for organics. And it looks like there is some progress being made at a municipal standpoint. Looks like there could be a pilot coming out shortly. So keep your eyes open for that. We also participated in a working group committee on short-term rentals with Trent Lake staff and council. We presented a lot of comments that many of you forwarded on to us. And that committee was actually terminated, and they're going to restart again in the fall. So keep an eye out for information on that. We also did work very closely with the municipality and the Ketchcoma Forest Stewardship Committee, talking to the Ministry of Natural Resources regarding the logging in the Ketchcoma Forest up on the north end of Ketchcoma. And through a lot of work by the Ketchcoma Forest Stewardship Committee, support by our organization and the municipality, there actually is going to be a significant reduction in logging in that area, which is good. And we also coordinated the deep lake water testing, which is being conducted by Trent University. We've been doing that for a number of years, and we're trying to get some trend data to look at that. We did this year do Lake Mississauga, Gold Lake, Pencil Lake, Ketchcoma Lake, and Beaver Lake. So we do have the results for those. And if you're interested in getting them, either send an email into ccraimail@gmail.com or go to your lake association, because we did send them out. We did have a number of public meetings over the last year. So our AGM last year and our June meeting this year, we had a presentation on climate change from Peter Sale. We always get updates on water levels from Ted Spence, as the chair of the Coalition for Equitable Water Flow. Carol Armstrong, our Galway Cavendish Ward councillor, gave us a municipal update. We had Janet Clarkson give us a mayoral update in our June meeting. And going back to the new business items from the previous year, we had Jay Murray Jones and David Fell from the Eastern Ontario Regional Network give us an update on what's going on in terms of internet and cellular improvements in our area. And in fact, a very large contract was just recently awarded to Rogers. And so we should be seeing some significant upgrades in our area. And earlier this year, we had Paul Frost doing our deep water testing. We did over the years lose one of our on-board directors, Jack Clark. And it would be remiss for us not to do a little memorial for Jack. When I took over as president of the association, Jack joined at the young age of 85. And he was a stalwart volunteer. Always the guy there first, making coffee for everybody. And he made a big impact on the community. He was one of the key guys who built the community center. And I just want to take a moment of silence for Jack. Thank you. This is the CCRAI website. And as you know, we do advertise all of our meetings on here. We put the recordings on here, and you can get any information that you're looking for. If you haven't renewed your membership, we'd appreciate if you would. The membership application is on the website, and very easy. If none of your information's changed, you can simply e-transfer in your membership fee to our ccraimail@gmail.com account. And here's our page with our meetings. You can actually see the recording from the Paul Frost presentation earlier in June. Okay, moving on to the financial report. At the top of the report, you'll see our financial balances at our previous year ending June 30th, 2020. We had $5,277.76 in cash, just a little over 3,200 in investments, and about $110 in our petty cash, for a total of $8,640.92. For our most recent year, we had deposits of $5,320.68, which was made up of about $4,500 in membership fees and an additional 780 donations to Love Your Lake program, and small amount of interest. Our disbursements for the year was $2,685.94, which for the bulk represents our directors and officers insurance, commercial liability insurance. We do water testing. We are members in a few other organizations, specifically the Coalition for Equitable Water Flow, the Federation of Ontario Cottagers, and North Kawartha Lakes Association. So our cash at the end of the period was $7,912.50. We have just over $100 in our petty cash fund, and our investments are $3255.54, which got us a huge amount of interest of $2.63 over the last year. Our total funds available for disbursement are $11,282.64. And as of August 21st, 2021, we have 78 paid memberships. So we would very much like people to renew their memberships. Can I have a motion to accept the financial statements for the Cavendish Community Ratepayers year ending June 30th, 2021, be accepted as presented?
This is Peter Raymond. I will make that motion.
Thank you, Peter. Can I have a seconder?
This is Kathy David. I second the motion.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions, discussion? Can we then take that to a vote with the poll? Okay, we're at 25 of 25, so that's good. So we can move on from there. And so the next thing on our agenda is our slate of directors. And so our bylaws say we need to have a minimum of 5, maximum of 11. With Jack Clark passing away, we have an open spot on our board. These are the nominations that have been received for election. If there's anybody who is interested in joining our board, I would ask that you either contact myself directly, Gary Jaros, or any of our board members, or send an email into our email ID, and then we can have a discussion just so that you have a sense for the level of commitment, et cetera, and the things that we work on. So with that, could I have a motion to accept the slate of nominated directors for re-election?
I'm Peter Courier, Gary, and I'd be happy to make that motion.
Thank you, Peter. And could I have a seconder?
I'm Linda Bryden, and I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Linda. Any discussion or questions? Okay, take that to a vote by the poll. All four. Okay, we're at 23 of 23, so we'll take that as that motion as carried. Okay, our next annual general meeting. Sorry, I'm going to open it up to new business. So I'm going to ask Peter to unmute everybody. And if you want to bring something forward as new business, what I'd ask you do is introduce yourself and then ask your question or make your comment.
Everyone should be
I'd
able
like,
to
I'd
unmute
like to bring up
themselves now.
a question. Ian Cahoon on Mississauga Lake.
Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, my question is, membership is at 78. Is that a historic high or low? And what is being done to increase the membership? 78 doesn't sound like the number that the Ratepayers Association can aspire to. We should be getting into the hundreds, I would think, in membership.
Yes.
What can we do to increase membership?
So if you recall from the financial statements, Ian, and thanks for that. It's a great question and one that we struggle with all the time. So last year we had $4,300 in memberships at $20 a family. That's about, just over 200 members. But we saw the membership come in virtually just as we were kind of getting into the into our AGM. So it comes. Usually what happens is when we have a meeting like this and we make an appeal for membership, we get a lot of memberships coming in. And whenever we do an email solicitation, we get a lot of members coming in. This year we had our June meeting. We've actually had some more members come in after we did a solicitation, but we would expect after this meeting, we're going to get a lot more. So hopefully that will help us out. But yeah, it's a tough challenge.
What would be the objective in membership? Ideally, can you get 500? Can you get 1,000? Can you get 5,000? What sort of endpoint can we aspire to?
Well, if you look at it, and I don't want to belabor it too long, but there's about, I'm going to say about 1,000 cottages just on our lake chain here. It'd be nice to get 50% of them. I think we'd be really happy to get 50% of them.
50%. So 500 would be a good goal.
Yeah. And we have members from road associations, Picard Lake, Pencil Lake, Greens Lake. I mean, we do have members from all over, but yeah, we'd like to have a little bit more. Any other questions? Any other new business?
Thank you, Gary.
Just a comment, Gary, is that some of the associations also belong to the CCRAI Ratepayers Association. So that's an additional membership.
Yes, that's true. Any other new business anybody else wants to bring up? Okay, I'm going to take that as no. So our next annual general meeting is Saturday, August 21st, 2021. And what I'd like to do is ask for an adjournment, a motion to adjourn the meeting.
This is Ted Spence. I think you got that date wrong for the next annual general meeting.
I think you're correct, Ted.
But I'm happy to move that we adjourn.
It should be August 21st, 2022, correct?
That's right. That's wrong on the slide on the screen. Anyway, I'm happy to move that we adjourn the business meeting.
This is Peter Raymond.
Ted.
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Peter. All for? Any opposed? I don't know that we have to go to a vote, but we can.
We did.
And it looks like we have a majority to adjourn the meeting. So we are meeting adjourned. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the annual general meeting. So this is our the follow-on agenda for the remainder of our meeting. So right now we're going to move to Safe Quiet Lakes. Diana Paquette, who's the chair, is going to take us through a presentation. We're going to watch a short video on our organization first, just to give some context for who Safe Quiet Lakes is. Following that, we'll go to Paul Smith and then to Ted Spence. So with that, Peter, could you I'm going to stop sharing, and if you could go and play the video, please.
Yeah, and can you check, Gary? I don't see Diane logged in right now, so
Okay.
thanks.
We're not hearing sound. Peter, we're not hearing the sound.
Okay.
We're going to try and redo that video.
As new people come to cottage country, some of the respect has not come with them. And one of the things I appreciate about Safe Quiet is that they are really encouraging that respect of the waterways, being aware of what's going on behind you, being aware of your wake and what it's doing, being aware of the noise your boat is emitting, and also the sound systems in boats today have changed drastically than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago.
When we're out on marine patrol, our primary goal is for public safety, ensuring the boaters on the waterway are doing so in a safe manner and that they're following the requirements of the Canada Shipping Act and having all the required safety equipment on board their vessels.
What we see more now is that the cottagers are getting together collectively and recognizing that excessively noisy boats on the water is becoming more and more of an issue.
We work with the leading industry associations like the National Marine Manufacturing Association, Wakeboard and Water Ski Canada, a number of groups like that, Paddle Canada, who are all like-minded in the sense that they want the lakes to be safer and quieter and understand that it's a shared resource. There's all kinds of lake activity going on. We just have to do it all in a way that is respectful of each other. We're very fortunate to have a firm called Aaron Research, which is one of the most respected public policy research firms in Canada, volunteer to do an email-based public attitude survey. We had an overwhelming response. We had 2,300 responses to the survey. The majority of the respondents cited 3 things that bothered them, and that was noisy boats, wakes caused by whatever source, and boats going too fast, too
let me see. You cannot share while the other participant is sharing. Okay, so it's not.
Okay, so Diana, it sounds like you're on and we can hear you on the presentation. So if you want to bring up your slide deck.
Hi, Gary. It looks like I am not able to do that until this video is over because it's now being used with that.
I've stopped the video there, Gary, for Diana to share her screen now.
All right, I will share my screen.
Just go back to your share tray and you should be able to find it there. There you go.
Are you able to see my my presentation?
I can see you. Yeah, perfect, excellent. Now we see it.
Okay, great. Awesome. So good morning and hello. My name is Diana Piquette and I am chair of Safe Quiet Lakes. And I'm very happy to be presenting to you today. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what Safe Quiet Lakes does, some of our programs that we've introduced in 2021, and some opportunities to work together. And I understand that Gary has also made time for questions. So if you have any questions, then I would be more than happy to answer them live, or if you send them in afterwards, Gary, you can send those to me also. So I'm going to start by just sort of sharing our mission because it's very, very clear. We started as an organization 12 years ago, and we started with a group of people that were part of different lake association executives. And we felt that a lake association is usually very focused on environmental issues, water quality issues, ratepayer issues, all sorts of things that distract you from addressing some of the safety and responsibility issues of being on the water. So we felt that there was place for an organization that would focus solely on these things. And we made our mission to make the Muskoka Lakes safer and quieter to ensure the sustainable enjoyment of a shared resource. And even though that says Muskoka specific right now, in the last couple of years, we have started to branch out. We now have a very close association with Georgian Bay. We would love to have a close association with you. And as you'll see when I go through our presentation, a lot of our issues are starting to be more federal level, and we've started to build partnerships across Canada. So I will get into that as we get to it. But the basis of it is that we believe that positive grassroots conversations can be important drivers of change, and that we're here to get that conversation going with lake associations and with other stakeholders. We are a fact-based organization. When we started Safe Quiet Lakes, the first thing that we did was conduct a wide survey to get input on people's views on the water, so that when we decided what to focus on and where to prioritize our programs, it would be based on what the people that enjoy the lake feel are important to them. And we have done 2 comprehensive surveys, and they tell us that people are very passionate about their lake environment, that safety is a universal priority, and yet only 31% rate their lake or their spot on the lake as very safe. And that the 3 safety concerns were powerboats not following the rules of the road, boats traveling at high speeds, and large wakes that can endanger others. And the net of it was that enjoyment of our lakes is directly related to safety, noise, and boat traffic. So that is from our last survey. Some of you may have seen that we've just finished launching this year's survey. So we do them every 4 years. This year's survey, we had over 7,000 people respond, with over 6,000 completing the survey and giving us comments. So the results of that are going to be shared in the mid-September timeframe. And I've seen kind of the highlights of it, and there's some things that are very similar. Safety, noise, boat traffic are still the issues, but there's starting to be a real sort of pent up thing around the increase of activity on the lake, and some of the rules around wake boards and wakes close to shore, and a little bit more of an interest in protecting our environment by creating some rules around that. So the results of those surveys, as I said, really drive our priorities. And so our priorities now are outreach and education. So we promote safe and responsible boating with our stakeholders, and we define our stakeholders as lake associations, marinas, municipalities, We have an annual meeting with those stakeholders where we get their input in addition to the surveys. And we do have close associations with people in Transport Canada, in most of the municipal offices, the provincial level and the federal level governments. We also have an advocacy platform that includes decibel limit legislation. We believe that it's a lot easier to enforce if you have legislation around decibels. We also believe that the way that boating accidents are reported is not good, because to date, the federal government does not require an accident to be reported unless there's a death. So that means that all of these other accidents that are happening on the lake are not being captured in the data that they're looking at. And so because of that, we believe that marine patrolling is very under-resourced in terms of the money that's given to it. We also believe in lake capacity evaluation tools. And when we speak to municipalities and talk to those politicians, we talk about, building and the capacity of it on the lake and what impact that has. So those are all the things that we care very much about. And we believe in building partnerships. As I mentioned, the municipalities, OPP is another important partner of ours, Canadian Safe Boating Council. We held a webinar last week on Wednesday, and we had the head of the Marine Division for OPP, David Moffat, as well as the head of Canadian Safe Boating Council, talking about legislation, what's happening on the lakes this summer, and then tips around keeping safe and doing the right thing on the water yourself to make sure that you're fine. So we're committed to working with lake community organizations, and a lot of that is our material, our outreach material. So this is just a demonstration of some of the things that we do. We have what's known as a boater's code. It's in a poster format as well as a postcard format. So we go to marinas and we put those boater's codes there. We also have approval to put it on public docks so that people can have a look and just see, what is important to do, which is, following the rules of the road, driving sober, all of these things around safety. And this is sort of a chart of our growing reach. We didn't increase the reach all that much this last couple of summers because we've been in COVID times, but we do have our big posters in 125 different public launch areas and marinas, and multiple postcards and other information distributed. And digitally, it's starting to grow much faster. Cottage Life magazine actually did an article last month that we were featured in, and then I did a podcast with them just 2 weeks ago. So again, talking about the impact of wakes on shorelines and some of the things people can do about it. We've also done a really cool video. It's called Be Wake Aware, and I'd love for you to go out and have a look at it. It's at beaware.com. So it's just really simple. And we did that video in association with Federation of Ontario Cottage Associations, as well as Muskoka Lake Associations and Canadian Safe Boating, Muskoka papers and all sorts of things are promoting it. So have a look if you get a chance. We started last year a project around wakes and speed, and the project itself was around if the use of signs telling people to slow down would make any difference. So we started with doing a survey of everybody that was in an area called Indian River, Little Joe Lake, which is a very narrow channel, and getting their input on what they felt, how many waves there were and how much it bothered them. We then put up, I guess they look like radar signs, a little bit like when you're driving on a road and it tells you your speed. And so the OPP put 2 of those speed sort of things, monitors. So as people drove by, they would have a look and see how fast they were going. And then there were signs saying, slow down, no wake. And then we did another survey at the end of having those signs up for a year to see if there had been an impact. And the people that lived in that area, that cottaged in that area, felt that there had been a very positive impact. They had some input on changing signs, so we actually have changed the signs since then. And that's actually no small feat, because Transport Canada has very strong regulations on where you can put buoys, where you can, and what kind of signs you can put up. So we created these signs, we made them a little bit stronger than our initial signs, and we went to Transport Canada and we got their blessing that we could put those signs up on private properties, and that they were sort of Transport Canada approved in terms of their messaging. The other big project that we're working on, I think I mentioned, was our Decibel Coalition. So we looked at all the different areas that we could advocate for legislative change, and the whole regulations around mufflers is now up as part of what they're considering. So we felt that it was kind of good low-hanging fruit on something that we could approach. So we created a national coalition, because anytime you want to promote legislative change, you have to have a national focus, because it's all federal waters. So if you want to do something and you're in Ontario or Muskoka and you don't have partners around the rest of Canada, then they don't listen to you too much. So we now have over 50 organizations from across Canada, including some very strong groups in British Columbia and Quebec that have joined us. And the idea is that we would create decibel limit, which means that instead of saying, "Gee, that muffler sounds loud," there's actual decibel limits that could be measured by the OPP, so it would be easier for them to enforce. And this legislation is actually, I can hear somebody in the background. I'm not sure who's got their noise or their maybe that's you, Gary. I'm not sure. Anyways, I hear some background noise. In any case, the EU, most of the states in United States, New Zealand and Australia all have exactly the same decibel limit regulations. And so we're hoping that because it's consistent around the world, and most of the boating manufacturers are actually having to create mufflers that meet these standards, that it will be passed in the near future. So that was kind of our big foray into creating a national sort of group of partners. And we're hoping that after we address that, we'll be able to address some legislation around wakes and other things. We also have this year launched an education program for people that rent cottages. So it's kind of a welcome to Muskoka as a renter, friendly message, but then talks about responsibility and safety on the water as an educational piece, because I think that we've had that feedback, and I think most lake associations are sharing that there's more new people on the water because of cottage rentals, and so those people may not be aware of some of the issues, maybe how sound travels over the water, how close you should be from shore, all sorts of other things. So a gentle education program for them. And this just speaks to our new survey that we just launched. And again, that is right now being analyzed and put together into a report format. So we're super excited about having those results, and we will be sharing that with all of the lake associations who participated, and we'll also be sharing it on our website so that anybody that didn't partake in that but want to have a look at it can see it. And the one thing that we did find, because we had different geographies respond to this survey, and the consistency of issues was really remarkable. It didn't matter if you were on Lake Joseph or a small lake in Kawartha, or on an open bay in Georgian Bay, that people's issues around safety, noise, and wakes were really quite consistent. We have an outreach to marinas and renters of different boats and PWCs. And again, every year we reach out and we speak to them about safety and sharing those safety tips with their renters. And that leads us to how we can work together. We have a lot of material that we have created that you can include in your newsletters. You could put links on your website to some of the things that we have. So I would, suggest that the Lake Association executives or any of the members that are interested, have a look. And if there's anything on our website that you would like to include and to point to from yours, either newsletter or right on your website, then please reach out to us and we can help make that happen for you. We would also love to have people join our Decibel Coalition. If noisy boats are an issue for you on your lakes, then we would be happy to have you join us. We also have a series of no wake signs that I mentioned were approved by Transport Canada. We sell them at cost, which is very inexpensive. It's, I believe, $20 a sign, and they can be put on private property. And much like we do in terms of reaching out to our lakefront partners like marinas, just go out and see if they're interested in taking material that promotes safety. And if you're interested in hosting educational events, safe boating awareness, all sorts of things like that, again, you can either invite us to partake in those, to present in those on a very specific topic, or you can just share something that we've already done, and we're very happy for you to do that. And the OPP, when Dave Moffat was speaking at our webinar, he really made it clear that they love to hear from people. They love to get the input. They don't have rich resources in terms of getting people on the lake, but they do have, I think it's 115 boats across Ontario, and they usually have at least 15 that are used just for training as well. So if you think that you have a specific issue, talk to them. They, when asked, what do you do about, say, a neighbor or somebody that's creating a lot of issues, they do suggest the first thing you do is reach out and talk to that person in a friendly way, because perhaps they don't realize the impact of what it is that they're doing. And then if that does not help, then Dave Moffat suggested that you gather evidence to bring to the OPP. And by that, he means, specifically, what does the vessel look like? Is it a blue PWC? Who's driving it? Take a picture or a video if you can. He said that they will also use as evidence if you keep a notebook with a pen in your boat or on your dock, and you just record the exact time, exactly what happened. And instead of saying somebody was driving crazy, you say the person was driving so quick that there were jets of water coming up from their, the back of their PWC, or the bow was up on their boat, and that showed how quickly they were going. So different things like that just make it a little bit more specific, so that they can go have the conversation with that neighbor. Doesn't mean it's going to be a legal thing, but they're happy to have that conversation as long as they have enough information that they can talk to that person about. This is just a list of all the people that sponsor us. We love them. Thank you. They provide us with the resources that we need to do what we do. And that's it in terms of my presentation. Our message, be respectful, share the space. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Diana. That was a great presentation. And Peter, if we could just unmute all the participants. And again, if you have a question for Diana, if you wouldn't mind first identifying yourself and then pose your question. And we'll leave the lines open for as long as we get questions. So anybody have a question for Diana?
Diana, my name is Les Clark. Can you tell me what the decibel level is that is currently in the EU or Australia or some of the places that do have a level?
I don't know that off the top of my head, and I'm so embarrassed because we talk about this all the time. We have bi-weekly meetings, and if you send Gary that question in an email, I will find out very specific details, Les.
Thank you.
Diana, I have a question. Ian Cahoon, Mississauga Lake. Your survey results are primarily from the Muskoka Lakes. Because only recently has Georgian Bay come under your envelope?
Yes, we had, out of the 7,000 people that responded, I believe something around 1,000 were from Georgian Bay. We had something like, I think it was 850 that were distributed across Canada. So it was different lakes in Ontario and as well as Canada. I think the ones that were in that were Ontario, but not in Muskoka, was probably about 600. So it definitely reflects more of the Muskoka than anything else. And as I mentioned, we are actually considering doing another survey next year, just because we've suddenly taken this summer a more national view, and we're thinking to replicate this survey and make it across Canada. And definitely, if you're interested in being one of the lake associations that distribute it directly to your members, then we're very happy to partner like that.
Is it fair to perhaps distinguish between boaters who are cottagers and boaters who might trailer their boat to respective lakes? Because they might, the latter group might have to be targeted in a different manner than the cottagers who are causing boating issues.
Yes, you're right. And the way that we structure our questions, we do get we do get to see if they are a cottage owner or a cottage renter. We also see what kind of boats they have. And I mean, one of the interesting things in our last survey, we identified that people that owned wake boats and did towing sports felt that there was no issue in the way people shared the lake, whereas people that were kayakers and canoe sort of human-powered vessels felt that there was an issue about sharing the lake fairly. So the way that we ask the questions, we are able to identify the different attitudes based on the type of cottager and the type of boats that we have. Just as background, we use Aaron Research as well as Algonquin's research group. So we're not doing these surveys ourselves. We are using a professional organization and then a professor and about 6 students that help compile the information in the background. And then the report itself is compiled and done by a professional research company.
I guess most of the issues, though, would be cottager boat related, would you think, just from the numbers as opposed to people bringing their boats in?
Yes, I think that's fair.
By trailer.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, just recently, I got involved in a little bit of a controversy. It was social media around our lakes. What I'm finding is every time the OPP puts a boat in our lake, and that's on Ketchikomma, and social media locally lights up and they warn everybody that they're there. And what the problem with that is, and of course, all the bad guys go away and hide and dock their boats and wait for the cops to go, and then they turn around and act irresponsibly later. So it's kind of missing the point here, right, about safety and so on. So I got a little incensed about that and actually caused a little bit of a controversy with our local social media. Are you experiencing that in other lakes?
I have not heard that. The biggest thing I hear about the OPP is just that they would like to see them more often. But I haven't heard that people are sharing when the police are on the water. So maybe that's kind of unique to a few people in your area that monitor that and then broadcast it.
Well, in fact, what happens is a number of people have responded to me basically in support of warning everybody. And they said, well, this is a good thing. And I would argue the exact opposite. So with the social media, we have people have their own groups set up and so on. And, it was ridiculous. Oh, now they're down at this lake. Oh, now they're over here. Now they're over there, so I just felt it was all very counterproductive, and I think the OPP are potentially kind of wasting their time a little bit because of this.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to respond other than I think, we have to create some change that's more than, just a pop-up of if the OPP is watching, they're going to hide their boats. I guess, there's some deep-rooted things that need to be addressed so that it's a bigger change in behavior than just, ducking from the cops.
Right.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment. I'm located in Baldwin Bay on the approach to Catchacoma Marina. And of course, we have two problems. We have problems with extreme boat wakes and with the very long, narrow, very fast, and very noisy boats that come in and out of the bay. I came up last evening, took a couple of videos of the long, fast boats whipping in and out of the bay for no reason. I mean, if they would stay out on the main lake, it's way less problem. And when they come into a confined bay at full speed, top volume, and then just turn around and go out again. It's just annoying. But it's really the wakes that I wanted to comment on. I think there's a really important point to make about wakes. What we think of here, what I think of here in this bay is you either have to go dead slow or stay on plane to minimize your wake. It's the people who think they're slowing down a little bit to, I guess, maybe to help us with less wake, who create the worst situations because they just plow into the bay.
Yes.
I mean,
and this is a function of boat design because planing hulls are the culprit. If more people use displacement hulls, there wouldn't be a wake issue.
No, of course that's true, but
to the same degree.
Just hear me out. If in doing any kind of education programming, it's really getting people to understand their own boats. Because I don't have any objection to people going by my cottage at top speed. And in fact, sometimes I follow boats that plow through the bay down to the marina and speak to the driver, and they're always surprised because they think they slowed down to help us. So I understand no wake, but most people, when they see a no wake sign, just slow down. And often if they've got a planing hull, as the gentleman just said, that means they're plowing. Because I know the only time I ever got stopped by the OPP for creating a wake, it was down on the Trent River, and the officer said, if you can see your wake, you're over 10 kilometers an hour.
Oh.
I mean, that was his criteria, because I said, I don't have a speedometer on this little boat. But the fact is, I would welcome people who would go closer to full speed. It's the ones who go at half speed who cause the greatest problems for those of us in confined areas or inshore. So I think it's important not to just talk about no wake, but it's really understanding your wake.
Yeah.
Sorry to go on so long.
No,
I don't know how you deal with that.
Yes, and I think you're completely right. I mean, there's kind of two things, and you mentioned if you can see your wake, you're going more than 10 kilometers. So the rules across Canada is you cannot go more than 10 kilometers within 30 meters of shore. So if I'm not sure, you were saying that your area is very narrow, so
no, we're greater than that. So we're about 120 meters across the bay. So
as long as they are in the middle,
certainly legal to go fast. Yes.
Okay. So there's that. There's also, and I've been sort of reaching out to some of the states that have regulations around wakes, and they have decided that the easiest way to have legislation is to actually create distance from shore rules. So for example, in many of the states, including Minnesota, which is very similar to Ontario, they do not allow PWCs within 150 feet of shoreline, and they don't allow wake boats closer than 200 feet from shoreline. And they are now trying to expand their legislation around wake boats because they're finding with their studies that there's, even though everybody talks about the damage onshore from wakes, that they've been doing studies and there's actually more damage being done under the water. So when that wake comes, it's displacing all the sediment and all the life and formations of what happens, and it gets thrown, sometimes 100 feet, and this is like happening all the time. And so they're saying that the health of the bed of the lakes are actually, it's now being discovered is really being impacted from large wakes. So there's different ways to approach it. Usually the cleanest way is to create something that's very absolute, distance from shore. Transport Canada doesn't actually recognize something called a wake, so they just have speed limits.
Okay, thank
But
you.
great, thank you.
Any other questions for Diana?
Cindy Bartoli, a lifelong cottager on Gold Lake. Diana, I'm just interested in what you were saying about distance from shore. Like, distance is so hard to judge in any case, but on the water. So how is there a way, are they putting markers up or something to indicate distance, or is it just personal judgment that is being used?
Yeah, I think there are ways you could do it. Like we've done in some of our postcards, we say, because in Muskoka, it's actually 9 kilometers or 9 for 30 meters from shore. And the 30 meters from shore in our postcards, we say is the length of 7 canoes. So we do it by things that people can compare it to. So if you are interested, I can send you that postcard, and then maybe you guys can use it or use that in your newsletters to educate people, or post it to educate people on, okay, you can't go closer than X distance. And what does that distance mean? It means X number of PWCs, X number of canoes, half the size of a hockey rink if you're a hockey player. So, there's all sorts of ways to sort of connect it to things that people could maybe understand a little bit better.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I just want to make a quick response to Tim, to your social media concerns that you have. I think I follow most of the social media accounts up there as well. And I think we have a few, most of us know who they are, well-known cottagers who feel that it's their right to do whatever they want, whenever they want, regardless of the impact on other people. And I think we just have to focus on all the good people that are up there, and that there are a few that are going to be throwing out the flags. The OPP are on the lake. Who's calling them? We can't have our fun anymore. We should be able to party all night long without repercussions. You're always going to have those. Let's focus on all the great people, and we'll somehow work our way around them, I hope.
Okay.
I just want to really one quick comment. I think boat manufacturers are largely culpable for manufacturing these water weapons that go 50 knots, 60 knots, great wakes, noise. They should also be held partly responsible. Of course, the end users, yes, they are mainly responsible, but the boat manufacturers, it's an industry that's archaic. Look at the auto industry with safety standards that have come in, but boat manufacturers, they just put out whatever they want, and it's always faster, noisier, more flashy.
I totally.
Diana, is any of your work done with any of the manufacturers?
I actually have the president of the Canadian North American marine boating manufacturer, Sarah Angel. She's on our advisory board. So at least 2 or 3 times a year, we reach out to talk about different issues. Their group is not particularly responsive to some of the things that we talk about. I guess obvious, but we try to communicate, and yeah, we do make attempts. And I know that with our Decibel Coalition, that we had seen that in the United States, that the US arm of that same North American Boating Manufacturer Association actually supported decibel limits. But in Canada, we're getting some resistance. So we are considering going directly to the boating manufacturers, like those that manufacture the engines, to talk to them directly.
Very good.
I think they need to know, the other side. We have a neighbor here who just got a new Yamaha, and when he started it up last night, go skiing. I mean, we jumped out of our seats. It was like an airplane, you know, it was extremely noisy. Can I just say a couple of quick things? One thing, well, the personal watercraft drive me crazy when they just go around and around and around in circles, and they create wake as well when they do that, which I think is quite destructive. And it really doesn't matter in a lake like Mississauga, which isn't that big. Those waves still come to shore. They, you know, I'm sure that's had an effect on our loon population, because we all know their nests are right down by the water line, and it juggles your docks, etc. The other thing that I've become so aware of this year is the trucks on 507. This has probably been mentioned, but has there been any concern about, I know that's kind of not on the water, but it does affect you, because the sound, as you know, when it's quiet, the sound travels depending on the noise. And we have truck traffic, these big trucks that are transporting rocks from the quarries. It seems 24/7.
Yeah, I agree. But any sound that happens on land is subject to the bylaws of your municipality. So different municipalities can actually discuss those kind of regulations. So I would suggest that you talk to, you know, your municipal elected officials and your town mayor, because that is something that they can create rules around. That's completely in a municipality's toolkit. That's their mandate. Anything on land.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
and then how do we participate in this decibel coalition? Are you going to be sending some information about that? Like,
I can send you some specific information, and then if the Lake Association executive want to meet with somebody and have a presentation on that topic alone, I'd be happy to set that up. And then if you're interested in joining, then we would be welcoming you with open arms.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good place to start. Thank you.
We'll follow up with you on that, Diana. Any other questions regarding Safe Quiet Lakes for Diana? Okay, if there's no other questions, Diana, I really want to thank you for taking the time out of your Saturday morning to help us with this very, very informative presentation on Safe Quiet Lakes. I know it's topical for a lot of people on our lake system and the surrounding lake system. So we really appreciate it, and we look forward to collaborating with you more in the future. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay, so with that, we're now going to be going to our next agenda item, which is Paul Smith, who is the park superintendent for the Kawartha Highlands Signature Site Park. So if we can just get Paul up on the screen, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay, we'll see if this works. Oh yes, there we go. So we don't use Zoom with our computer. So my computer almost blew up on me when I tried to get onto this Zoom platform. We use a different platform. Well, thanks for having me. Just a quick update. It is going to be very quick. Basically, Ontario Parks is operations normal, even with COVID. We've sort of fluctuated between allowing camping, not allowing camping, but in about mid-June, we returned to just basic operations normal. Our operations have been up, like our camping has been well up in both 2020 and 2021. Not so much in Kawartha, just because we have limited opportunities for camping. We have limited campsites, only 120 campsites, and we don't really offer organized day use activities, such as like a sandbanks or something like that. But certainly our reservations across the province are up 300%. So that's quite a bit. Probably that number will go down once people can actually do other things. But Ontario Parks was quite a hit as far as COVID goes. This year as well, there is free day use Monday through Thursday. The Ontario government decided that free day use would be in place Monday through Thursday to give folks other opportunities to get outdoors. Finally, we have completed that Catchacoma Narrows project. We did that finalized it this spring, and we are just monitoring it right now. So that is complete. Folks probably have seen that. It turned out quite well. And that's it for me. I'm just open for any questions.
Thank you very much,
Paul.
Paul, for that. Sorry, I just wanted to thank Paul for attending our meeting. You know, Paul's a great partner of ours, comes to all of our meetings, keeps us up to date on what's going on. I want to thank you for all the hard work for you and your team at cleaning up that First Bridge parking lot. I think you did an excellent job there. You know, cars, boats, and trailers can't get into the wetlands there anymore. There's lots of room to turn around and there's more parking. So thanks very much for that. Really want to appreciate it. It was a great project to work together with on you. And with that, we'll open it up to questions from anybody. Sorry, whoever was just starting before I wanted to thank Paul.
I really don't like Zoom calls. I don't know where to look most of the time. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't like these things. Can't wait till in person.
Any questions for Paul on the Kawartha Island Signature Site Park?
Perfect.
Paul, have there been any issues? Paul, have there been any issues with any of the camping sites this year? I mean, we've been around to take a look at the ones in Cold Lake. There's been a lot of people there, but just want to know if there has been any issues or is everything running smoothly?
Not anything abnormal. I mean, it just there is a can and bottle ban, so there have been some folks that have not obeyed that, and some illegal camping, but nothing more than usual, and which is very minimal actually. Our compliance level is really good. So.
Paul, if there was one thing that you could improve, just snap your fingers and the park would get what you want, what would that be?
One of the deliverables within the park management plan was to have a hike to campsites as well, and we don't have that. So it's something we've been working on very slowly because there's obvious sensitivity about access areas. So if I could snap my fingers and have an access area for hike to campsite network, that would be it.
Thank you.
Paul, I know over the year you enlarged the parking lot over at the Bottle Lake access point. How did that go, and is it sufficient? Are you running out of capacity there? How's that looking? Because I know when you originally put it in, you had it scoped out for enlargement in the future anyway.
Yeah, so you know it's fine. There's not that it doesn't get at capacity pretty much ever. There's ample space there. Not ample, but there's space there. And we're not increasing any campsites or anything like that, so it's fine. It'll be good for forever, or as long as the park's there.
Perfect. Any other questions for Paul?
I would just ask Paul if they have any plans to expand the parking at Military Bridge. I see that it's now spilling out onto the highway again. I noticed yesterday there were at least a dozen cars parked on the side of 36 as we came up towards Flynn's.
So no, we do not have any plans to expand. There are some dead trees there, some pine trees that we'll be taking out over the next month or so, which will give an opportunity to expand minorly. But that's it. There's just because we have to remove some trees, we can throw some gravel down and get maybe one or two parking spots without having to do any public consultation or anything like that. But no, the best format for controlling that would be to have the OPP or bylaw officers start to actually lay tickets for parking on the side of the county road, and we don't have that ability.
Oh, if I could ask.
Yes, okay, if I could ask one quick question, Paul, any concerns about the floral cover for the park with the gypsy moth caterpillar infestation and other stressors with climate issues? Or is the general health of the park pretty sound?
So I would have said if you asked me that in June if there was a concern. And I would have said probably we'll have to wait and see about how trees bounce back, which is still the same anyway. We still do need to wait to see. But interestingly, and I know you will have seen this in your area, is that once the caterpillars turn to moths, the forest actually relieved itself. I'm not a forester, so grew leaves again, which was really interesting to see. So no, I think that listening to the forest health experts in MNRF, they say that although it's cyclical, the forests tend to rebound quite well. So that's why there is no spraying. One of the reasons. I think it was pretty interesting to watch that it rebounded. The trees rebounded.
Okay.
Now the pine.
Thank you.
Seems that the pine trees may not. That's the reason that we have to remove trees at military bridges, because the moth ate all the needles, and they weak already, and basically they will not come back. They completely died.
Could I ask a question about Cold Lake? It's part of the park. And there is a very narrow, rocky entrance from Gold Lake to it. And I see big boats going through there, and there's a nice marshy area there, which I think is fairly sensitive. So can you tell me, are there any rules about the size of boats in Cold Lake?
There are not. Gold Lake, in the park management plan, there are lakes that when they are used, some main access lakes, they will remain unlimited motorboat. Some lakes are identified as future consultation to determine if there can be further regulation on motor size, and some are no motorboat at all. Gold Lake, I may have this wrong, but I believe Gold Lake is slotted within that possible for future regulation. But there are some issues with moving forward with that part of the management plan, and it would require public consultation. So
sorry, I was referring to Cold Lake.
And that's what I meant was cold.
Oh, okay.
I messed that up.
Okay, any other questions for Paul? Okay, if there's not any other questions for Paul, I want to thank you again for all your support over the years and the continued good work that you do as a good neighbor for us. So thanks, keep up the great work, and thanks for coming to our meeting today. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Enjoy your day.
And now what we're going to do is we're going to move to our last presentation, which should get us to wrap up just at around 11:30. So we're going to move to Ted Spence, who's the chair of the Coalition for Equitable Water Flow. And he's going to take us through a couple of slides to tell us what has transpired relating to water levels on our lake system over the last couple of weeks and where we're forecast. So Ted, over to you if you want to share your screen. We should be good to go.
There we are. Can you hear me? Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good, Ted.
Okay, good. Let me get rid of this thing first. I don't know what you're seeing on my screen, but anyway.
All we're seeing, Ted, is just your slides. Don't worry, we're not
Okay.
seeing your video that you're seeing. We're
Okay,
just seeing your
that's good.
slides.
That's fine then, good. Okay, so what can we say? We certainly had a season of water level extremes. When we met in June, I showed you this graph, which showed that on June 25th, we were almost half a meter below the average level for that date. And we were in fact already below the lowest level that we'd ever recorded in the last 35 years here. And then of course, not long after that, things started to turn around and we went to record high levels by the early August. And now we're still tracking well above our average level for this date. And the explanation is pretty simple in the weather, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But it's pretty spectacular what we've seen. Just to remind you, we're here, of course. These three drainage basins here in the Trent Severn watershed, the Gull Basin, the Burnt Basin, and what we call the Central Lakes, represent the reservoir area. There are 35 reservoirs, 17 in the Gulf, 13 in the Burnt, and 5 large lakes in our area: Anstruther, Mississauga, Crystal, Eels, and Jack's Lake here in the Central Lakes. And we all drain down directly to the Kawartha Lakes. And of course, the Trent Severn Waterway extends from Georgian Bay all the way to Lake Ontario, through the Kawartha Lakes, down through Peterborough, Rice Lake, and then the Trent River down to Peterborough. And a priority for the water management team is, of course, to keep that whole waterway within the normal range for navigation, and that is certainly tricky under some circumstances. Just to remind you, everybody's favorite chart that you can't read, that shows all the black bars are dams, and all the bars, the blue ones as well. This is the canal system here down to Lake Ontario. This is our area, the Central Lakes, the Burnt River Lakes, and the Gull watershed. And all these 35 reservoirs are managed both for recreational use throughout cottage country, but at the same time, they're also of course managed to provide water supply to the canal. And this year in particular, there are more than 100 dams on this schematic diagram that the Trent River Water Management Team are managing on a daily basis. They have a very sophisticated system of data collection, both in terms of precipitation input and water levels on the lakes and flows on the rivers. They're on top of it on a daily basis, and they are manipulating dams every day. Now here's the story for this year, and it's pretty simple actually. What happened? We went by it, and I've got this crazy. There we go. I got rid of it. So if we go back just quickly, here's a quick snapshot of what happened. Last fall, from September to December, we had only 85% of our normal precipitation, and November and December were particularly dry. So when things froze up, everything was pretty dry. In January, we had only 48% of our normal precipitation. In February, we had a pretty good snowfall, and by the end of February, we had more than normal snowfall. But then beginning in March, we had well less than our normal precipitation. And the other thing that happened in March was we had a very early melt of the snow. You'll recall that we had at least 1 week in there when the temperatures were in the 20s. In our area, we were lucky. Our lakes filled. In fact, Mississauga and Anstruther were the only 2 of the large reservoirs that actually got to their full level in the spring runoff. Further north, the big lakes in Halliburton did not fill because their snow melted in that really warm week, and a lot of it simply evaporated, and a lot of the rest of the melt simply went into the bush that was so dry. But then we followed on in April with about normal precipitation, except it all happened in 4 days, which meant it just got sucked up into the extremely dry soil. And then in May, we had 29% of our precipitation. And then in June, for the first 25 days of the month, we had almost nothing. And then we had a blast of precipitation at the end of June. And in July, we had 200% of our normal precipitation. And in August, we're sort of back to normal. So that's what brings us to where we are with the current drawdown situation. And we'll just go back to this graph then for a moment. So what happened here is we filled when nobody else filled. Then they had to use our water. They drew our lakes down because we were the only area of large reservoirs that had water. So we were drawn down significantly, both to provide water to the canal, but also just by the drought and evaporation. And then when the rain finally came in the end of June, it's interesting, you'll see it was flat here in June, even though we were getting that rain, because when it started to rain, it all went into the soil. Then by the time we got into July with about double the normal precipitation, all of our problems went away. And we're back up here now. And as of today, our water level is declining by about 2 to 2.5 centimeters per day. That's an inch or just under an inch each day. And we're on a track to go that direction. We go back to the CEWF.ca, the Coalition for Equitable Water Flow website. if you go to this site, you can always get the latest up-to-date information on what's happening with our water levels. We get a drawdown forecast from Trent Severn every Tuesday, which we post immediately when we get it, sometimes with a short commentary and sometimes not with a short commentary. But we get it posted as quickly as possible, usually several hours before the government gets their version up. And up in the right-hand corner here, there's 3 links. The top 2 are the 2 important ones. The water level forecast, you can go directly to their website. And the second one is the drawdown forecast, where you get the forecast of how much our lake is going to drop in the next 2 weeks. And that's a forecast based on minimal precipitation. So I would strongly suggest you monitor the CEWF website and check the water level graph and check the drawdown forecast. And when you get to the water level graph, there's another tab here, this table tab. If you click on that, it'll show you the daily water levels for the last 30 days, and you can see exactly how much it's changing. So if you're concerned how soon you have to move your dock or how soon you have to do something with a water line or something as low water levels come through the fall, you can go to that table and see exactly what's happening. Or you can go to the drawdown forecast and see how much it's going to drop over the next 2 weeks. Just a caution about the drawdown forecast, it assumes no major precipitation events. So if one of these tropical storms that's tracking down south of the US and up the East Coast starts to affect our weather, things could still change here. Because right now, the Kawartha Lakes and the canal are at proper navigation levels, and they're running on minimum flows, and they're just receiving the normal drawdown flows from the reservoirs. And of course, Trent Severn wants to get this line back down to its normal average, because we have to get to our minimum levels by the 2nd or 3rd week of October. And that's because of the trout spawning in our lake. It's important that the water level not go down any further after the trout spawn, because if it does, it's possible that the trout will have spawned in shallow rocks and the spawn will dry out, or it will freeze in the winter. So Gary, that's basically where we're at. We're into a period of continuing drawdown of, let's say, 2 centimeters or a little bit more each day. And I suspect most people are fairly happy with the water levels we've seen, unless you're waiting for your beach to appear. So I don't know if there are any questions, but there we are, Gary.
Thanks, Ted, for that update. Always very informative and keeping everybody up to date on what's happening with the water. Any questions for Ted? Last request. Any questions for Ted? Okay, with that then, we will move on to wrapping up our meeting. Again, wanted to thank everybody for taking the time out of your day for our annual general meeting and this public meeting. Hopefully you got something out of the Safe Quiet Lakes presentation by Diana Paquette. They are looking for additional chapters to add on. So if any of you have any interest, either email us at the CCRAI at ccraimail@gmail.com. Also, just a reminder, again, we talked about it earlier in the meeting. If you haven't renewed your membership for the CCRAI, please do so and encourage your friends and family on the lake system. We hope that we're bringing value to you. We monitor all the municipal meetings and have been involved in a lot of things that impact us as taxpayers here. And we just hope everybody appreciates that and renews their membership in the CCRAI. With that, I'll thank you again for your attention today, and we will end the meeting. And enjoy your weekend. Looks like the weather's going to be nice. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.
My internet died there. Everyone's reconnecting.
Can we sign you off somehow?
Technology is wonderful when it works.
Ted,
Yeah,
would you like to present at the Salmon Lake AGM?
when is that?
The 22nd, I think, of September.
That rings bells that something else is happening, but yeah, why don't you contact me after this and we'll follow.
Can do.
Thanks.
I don't see Gary reconnecting yet.
Peter, Gary ended the meeting.
Hello. Hi everyone, we are closing the meeting now. Apologize for the internet interruption there, but thank you for attending today. Take care.